Hello everyone, welcome to our next snippet. I love looking back on the snippets and just looking at the different ideas because it makes me want to get my products out and create all over again. I just love looking back on them. So we're going to create our next snippet, which is snippet 87. And I think my book is turning there. So snippet 87 is what we're going to do next. Again, all about simple ideas and nothing too complicated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take seed pods, TE29, and I'm going to take prize ribbon. So we'll take our prize ribbon like so. Am I going to, yes, let's ink the whole thing. Do you like how I couldn't make my mind up whether I'm going to ink the whole thing or not? Let's just wipe my acrylic block. Like so. And then we can just add the seed pods just here to our project, and I'm stamping with the Distress Oxide prize ribbon. Just add a few more like so. So a nice simple design. And then I'm going to take one of the light bulbs, so I think we'll take TE24. I'll take the light bulb from there. It's entirely up to you which size light bulb you'd like to take, so I'll take the larger one, and I'm just going to ink around the edge like so. So ink around the edge, maybe a little bit more on this edge here. Which bit do I need to be lying? Do you like how I'm trying to work out which edge I can have more colour on? There we go. So I'm just going to ink the light bulb like so. Decide where I'm going to dangle that from. And we can add that as well. Now we can move this colour. So let's just move these out of the way. And I can take a little bit of water. We'll just make sure that my brush is clean. And then we can move this colour. And we can just colour the light bulb quite easily. Just to blend it out. And you can blend that out to nothing. And now you've got a lovely easy way to colour your light bulb, because you've got the dark here and it leaves a little bit of the light in the centre as well. And if you want to take colour out, you can add water like so, and you can just dab. So if you want to take a little bit out of the centre, you can just dab that, and then you can add more colour if you wish around the edge. So a lovely easy way to colour your light bulbs. You could do the seed pods in this way as well, but if you don't want any difficult ways of colouring your light bulbs, well, now you've got a nice simple way of doing the colouring. So you can add a little bit of darkness wherever you want, and you can also take some of that colour away as well. So if you want, you can use clean water and you can just take away some of the colour. So with the seed pods, we can use some clean water and we can use our kitchen towel and you can remove some of the colour as well if you wish. Use a clean piece of kitchen roll and make sure that you use a clean brush because you don't want to apply the colour back on to the seed pods. So because we've used that distress product, you can now colour in a different way. So always make sure that you've got clean water. So use your clean water and you can bleach out the areas. So if you don't have any luck with white pens, you can do it this way. There's always different ways that you can colour and use your stamps. So don't be frightened to do it a different way if something doesn't work for you. So we can just dab these out. Just dab a little bit of that colour out. And it just gives you another way of colouring each of your pieces. And also if you give that a little bit longer just to stay on the actual ink, you will lift more of that off. So there's always ways just to change that a little bit. Now let's just clean we'll just run our brush straight the way through it like I've just done. Let's just clean the brush, and then I'm going to use some vintage photo. So let's take some vintage photo and spritz that with water. And what I'm going to do now is just add a little bit of the vintage photo just around our project, just so that it shines a little bit more. Now be aware that obviously the minute you touch that blue, you're going to drag a bit of that colour out. But I quite like the effect of slightly touching and dragging a little bit of that colour out. It's sort of quite arty. So we're just going to go around, and you can see I'm using that little brush and I'm using plenty of water. And what I'm trying to show you here is nice, simple methods of colouring without stressing too much about what you are doing. So nice, simple way here of creating something quite arty without any difficult processes. So let's just turn our card around and just add a little bit more. And once you've got that moisture on there, you can then dab in some more colour if you wish. But this just sort of makes that blue pop a little bit more. And it's wonderful because it's not too regimented. And then if I want to go in and add a little bit more darkness of colour, I can go in and just add a little bit more darkness of that colour, just around the edges, just to make it a little bit darker. You can add more water if you want it to sort of dilute out really nicely, but use the tinted water to sort of dilute that out, because then it'll just look more blended. And what happens is that your project starts to pop a little bit more the more depth of colour you add to that design. It really does pop. And that's your sort of simple snippet idea. So you can just come in and touch those. I can just touch this now with a little bit more darkness of colour. I can even add some more of that vintage photo, which is a lovely warm brown. So because I've got that moisture on there now, I can just touch a little bit more of that darkness. And if you don't get enough movement, just water it down and touch it slightly with a little bit of your water. It's nice just to get a little bit more darkness. And again, just touch that with a little bit of your tinted water, just so that it looks a little bit more blended. So just spend a little bit of time just getting a little bit closer, but sort of in a very loose format, so that it's a very loose colouring. And then use your tinted water just to drag everything out. So let's add a little bit more darkness here. And by using that very fine brush, and then use the tinted water just to drag it out. And because you're using those oxides, it will start to oxidize, which is wonderful. And then you can come back in and go even darker around the edge, and then use that tinted water just to drag that out. So it gives you lovely loose colouring, but it works really nicely. So that works lovely. And you can take as long as you wish, just making it a little bit darker around some of your seed pods. So it does work rather beautifully. But remember, when you're blending out, use that tinted water and be quite free. And then I'm just going to add a few sort of delicate splatters, just so that it moves a little bit more. And really, it's wonderful if you can just let that dry naturally. Now, you've seen me flick with water. So I went like that and flicked with water, just so that it starts to bleed a little bit and just adds to the artsy feel of the project. So we'll just grab some clean kitchen roll. Now, you can let that sort of wick out as much as you wish. You can give it a few seconds. You can let it dry completely naturally on its own, or you can dab that. Now, I'm just going to sort of dab once without moving the kitchen roll. You can see how much colour is lifted, just so that you can see we have a beautifully sort of watery kind of project. Just yummy. Yummy, yummy, yummy. So then I'm going to use my background stamp, which I have no idea whether I put it back or not. I did. Now, this is soaking wet, but I'm not going to dry it. So I'm going to use TE11, my background elements, whilst this is still wet. And then I'm going to take Oxide Vintage Photo, which will obviously move because it reacts with moisture. So I'm just going to add the Vintage Photo. Now, the surface that I'm stamping on is not dry, so the text will react a little bit with that water and give me a softer feel to that text. So you need to be aware of that. I'm stamping onto wet product, so it will just give a softer feel to the whole project. Now, I want the appearance that the light bulb is on there. Now, I've done the 15 minutes, but I'm just going to carry on a little bit further just to add some other details. So I'm going to pick up the Vintage Photo and I'm going to just add a little, just sort of a bit of a stem, as if it's just sort of dangling from there. And then I might add another little light bulb. So the smaller light bulb, I can't pick up, from TE24. Now, I'm doing it after I've done the brown, so it'll be brown underneath. But that is absolutely fine because I can bleach out areas if I wish. And this is the advantage of colouring in this way. There are advantages to each one. So I'm going to take the prize ribbon. I think I've inked the little bauble up. Not that it matters too much. Let's have that a little bit higher. There we go. And I've now got the shape of the light bulb. And like we did before, let's get rid of that brown because we certainly don't want the brown. So let's make sure that we've got a clean brush and a clean bit of water. And again, I can colour nice and easily. I can push all the colour to the edge like so. Just gives me a lovely easy way to add colour to that light bulb, and then you can add more to the edges should you wish by just picking up the colour again and just blending that out. You can even go back in here and give it a little bit more dimension and just blend that out with a little touch of water. And again, a lovely easy way to give that watery feel, but a nice sort of subtle touch. You can then take your water clean and you can use that and blot the centre of your light bulb like so, and still come in and make it darker just at the edges. Take off the excess and just blend it out to nothing. A lovely easy way to colour. Just works beautifully. And then I'm just going to include that so that bleeds a little bit, a few splatters of the water so that that light bulb bleeds a little bit as well, just so it reacts the same as all the others. I'm just going to give that a few moments just to do its thing. Use a clean piece of kitchen roll, and again you can just dab, and you can see where the light bulb was here. It just lifts a little bit of that colour. You can add some brown if you wish, but you don't have to. You can leave it as it is. You can also, let's just use a little clean piece of kitchen roll so that you can see, and preferably use clean water. I can still go in, let's use this clean water, and just add a little bit of water to these, and I can still lift. So use some clean kitchen roll so you know I'm not doing anything. I can still lift the colour like so, should I wish to lift more of that colour. So you can continue just going in and lifting more of that if you wish, but I do like the fact that it's very sort of watery. And again, you can still go in here and lift more of your colour if you wish. So it's entirely up to you. I'm going to take a tiny bit of blue. Let's add a little bit of sort of blue here. There we go. And to be honest, I love the fact the more watery it is. So I'm even going to add more of that water, just because I do love when it wicks out a little bit. Now, the only other thing you need to remember is when you've used oxide on your stamps, give them a clean. It's the only time I clean my stamps, mainly because if I go back to the VersaFine Clair, it will affect that. You won't get a clean, crisp stamping. So you just need to be aware of that. And I love that it's just bleeding a little bit more. I'm then going to take another sentiment from the TE24, and I'm going to use the wording original. Like so. Just use that original. Stamp this onto my card, and I'm going to use the Nocturne ink just so that appears in the foreground. And I've not put, well, that's really good, Tracy. Didn't even stamp the owl. I'm not going to put it to the edge of the card because the card isn't straight. And then we'll just cut that out. And the sun's shining, which is lovely. Just cut that wording out. It's up to you how much wording you add, but please remember, whatever you add to this, don't forget that Distress Oxide will move. That's the whole point. Right, so let's take a little bit of adhesive, and you can see I have not dried that card. Just be aware that I have not dried that card. So add the original there. I'm going to let it dry naturally because I just love this sort of movement and watery feel that I've got. So I'm then going to just add a little bit of my Inktense Chinese ink grey to the base of that wording, and I'm just sort of going to touch lightly just so that I can blend that out. Okay, and the card is still wet. I'm then going to take TE30 and take these little blackbirds here take those little black beads, use my black ink and use the black beads and just add them to my design. And you've got, I can see the bleached out area here where I've got the water, because as you know, I've not dried the card. So we'll just fill in that little black area, and then we'll just add a little bit of shading just underneath the beads, just so that they are not just floating in midair. And then I'm going to add some splatters of white paint whilst the card is still wet, because that white paint will also wick out, which is part of the look. There we go. Just add very sort of light. Actually, I'm not, because I like the fact they're black beads, and that's it. So let's bring in our snippet, just so that you can see. So this is snippet 87. Let's bring this in, and when you put that against your book, it starts to really sing. So I hope you've enjoyed that demonstration and that you'll give that a go. You can, if you wish, still come in once it's all dry with a little bit of white paint with your Posca pen and just add some more touches of white should you wish. And again, you can still do that on your little light bulbs as well, but be aware you need to let that dry. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.